This is Dr. Jennifer Jansen from the Zepf Center. You're listening to JJ's Clinical Connection, connecting you to clinical topics. Welcome back to JJ's Clinical Connections. We're so glad you're here. June is Fatherhood Month, and today we're diving into the heart of what it means to be a present, healthy, and healing father. We're talking all things fatherhood, from breaking cycles and reconnecting with our children to understanding how our own childhood helps shape the way we parent today. To lead us through this conversation, we're joined by Crowe and Andrew Hohlbein from our Fatherhood Connections Program. Over the past 5 years, this program has worked with hundreds of local fathers to reconnect them with their children, rebuild family units, and live a life that is stable, meaningful, and fulfilling. We'll hear stories from Andrew and Thomas's own experiences, as well as the lessons they've learned working with the fathers in this program. Whether you're a dad, a mentor, or just looking to better understand the father figures in your life, this episode truly has something for everyone. Let's get into it. Welcome to the studio this morning. Would you like to introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Yeah, I'll go first, Thomas. My name's Andrew Hohlbein. I'm with the Zepf Center's Fatherhood Program. I've been with Zepf for about a little over 3 years. I started as peer support over at the Recovery House, and I now work as the outreach and engagement coordinator for our Fatherhood Program.
Great. Welcome, Andrew.
My name's Crowe. I'm the outreach support specialist for the Fatherhood Program, and I've been here for 1 year.
Great. Welcome, Thomas. So my understanding is both of you actually participated in the Fatherhood Program, and now you are here working in the program, helping to lead other fathers. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your own personal experiences and why you find this program so important?
I was 4 months sober from alcohol and cocaine. I was living at the Zepf Recovery House, and I saw a flyer for the Fatherhood Program and knew nothing about it. I just saw fatherhood, so that's why I signed up. But shockingly, it plugged into my recovery perfectly. So all aspects of my life I was working on, whether it be in like IOP or PHP and then IOP and then OP, which is outpatient, different treatment for SUD if you're not aware of that. But working on my mental health and just to work on being a better father made sense, and it only improved my recovery. But again, like I said, it plugged in perfectly. So that's why now I want to take this program to anybody that's in recovery and a father, just because it helped me so much and it propelled me to where I'm at. So while I was in the program, after graduating the 6.5-week course, working with them on a case management basis, they put me through a CDCA class. So they paid for my CDCA class, Chemical Dependency Counselor Assistant. I think it was like a behavioral health tech service aid class at the time, but they helped me with a computer to do class online, really put me in a position to be able to have the credentials to even apply for a job like this, which ultimately, once I got onto fatherhood, I've gotten promoted twice. So that's been awesome. And really, I think part of that is just having a passion or a dog in a fight.
For me, when I was incarcerated, one of the hardest days that I had in incarceration was I had talked to my son on the phone, and I had a same conversation I had with my dad. I was my dad, and I was having a conversation with him, and I had hung up the phone and realized I had just said the same things to him that my dad said to me 100 times on the phone from jail. So I knew at that point I wanted to change. And so when I heard about the program, Andrew's actually the one that introduced me to the program. And when I took the program, I didn't know, again, I knew I wanted to change, but I just didn't know how. And this fatherhood program, it doesn't just teach you to be a better father. I tell all the guys, this will teach you to be a better human, like a better person. Anything like power over, power to, filling your cup, all the things that we're going to talk about, if you implement these things in your everyday life, you'll be more successful. And ultimately, it helped me. One of the things I love is choice theory. And one of the things it says in choice theory is that this is a lot of reasons behind here is we have a relationship deficiency. Well, I had a relationship deficiency with both my father and myself. And it really helped me identify what my relationship was with my father. And then it helped me to realize that I really didn't know who I was. And it made me do a lot of self-digging. So, yeah, I took the fatherhood program. But after the fatherhood program, I started seeing a therapist. I started seeing a counselor. It was really what it was. It was like just crossing the starting line, not the finish line. And it made me go down a path that I really started to improve myself. And then after I graduated, I got asked to speak at the fatherhood program, and like that is what started me down this path. It gave me the opportunity. Not only did it help me repair my relationship with my kids, my relationship with myself, it gave me the opportunity to help give back to the community and be able to provide a living for myself, doing what I love, to help people give back. It completely helped me do a full transformation of my life.
I think guys seeing where we've been and where we're at provides some kind of hope. And even when we talk about like little wins in class where, they'll come in and say, I did make that phone call and they answered, to be able to show that that's even possible in a group of guys, I think it is huge. But for you to talk about like the holistic part of recovery where you're looking at the wheel of it or however you want to refer to it. But I think that's where the fatherhood plugged in perfectly.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Fatherhood Program and its history with Zepf Center?
Yeah, so we're a federal grant. We are a 5-year grant. We're in our 5th year of our grant. It does end September 29th, but we do have the hopes that we will be able to apply for another 5 years. Fingers crossed, yeah, of course. But yeah, Thomas and I's history with the program's a little different than most of our coworkers because we actually got to experience the program firsthand. So each of us went through the program. His experience was a little different than mine, of course, but ultimately we both got something from the program enough to want to come back and serve the same guys, just like us that are going through the same things that we have. And I think that's really kind of why we're here today, why Thomas and I stand out in the program is just because we have a dog in the fight, so we can actually bring it to people that are in the same ring.
Why is it important to focus this education and support specifically on fatherhood?
I think that in today's world, we have a lot of fathers who have made mistakes, and providing them assistance so they can get back on their feet is what allows them to gain their confidence back to be able to support their children. You see there's a lot of programs out there for mothers. There's a lot of programs out there for single moms. You hear about that. You hear single mom, but how often do you hear single father? So we're able to take a population of men and help them get back on their feet and give them the confidence they have to move forward. And once you take someone who's worked in a factory their whole life and they have they feel like they have no meaning to like what they do, we give them the opportunity to find something that they love to do and then provide for their family in that way. I love my job because I'm able to make a good living doing something that I love. And that's important. That provides a lot of happiness in my life.
That's wonderful. And I've heard you and many individuals in the program use the phrase, "You can't fill from an empty cup." What does that mean to you in the context of being a father?
For me, this is one of the things that really related to me within the program. I feel like if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't provide for your children. So I was incarcerated for a year, and then I came home and I took this program. And the first thing I wanted to do was get right back in my kid's life. But I would work Monday through Friday, spend Saturday and Sunday with my kids. I took no time for myself, and I was getting burnt out. And then what I realized was I had to start taking time for myself. And by doing that, I really was taking care of them, taking care of myself. And it is just, if we're not doing things for ourselves, building ourselves up, making sure we're taken care of, the time that we spent with them is not quality. We're not really engaged. I'd go there, I'd be tired. Now when I'm with them, I'm fully engaged. I'm rested. I'm doing everything I need for myself so I can be there for them. And it's just, you have to make sure that you're prepared to be the best father you can be.
So we work out of a workbook. We meet 2.5 hours twice a week. Basically, our curriculum's set up so that we can focus on the dad taking care of himself first. Not just himself, but his inner child. So the chapters are set up in a way where we can break down those walls where they're able to get vulnerable, they're able to identify feelings, they're able to do these things that Thomas is talking about, because we take the steps to try to heal that child or look at those traumas, try to stop that. If we can put that in place, if they're taking care of themselves on all platforms, so whether it's mental, physical, financial, as Thomas was talking about, we try to cover all those things before we even talk about parenting. So I think there's a few more chapters that we'll probably highlight throughout our conversation, but yeah, we try to fill their cup first before they can pour from it.
When we start our meetings, the first thing we ask them is, how are you feeling today? And we don't allow them to say good or all right, because there's been so many times in our lives as men, we weren't good or all right. But when someone says, how are you? I'm all right. And we just keep pushing. And that's the start of filling your own cup, is helping them identify where they're off at. Like, how are you really feeling today? Are you tired? Are you excited? Are you blessed to be here? And by doing that, that's the first. So we start every single class with identifying how they are today and what can we do to make that better.
What are some common ways that fathers disregard their own well-being, and how can that impact their parenting?
So prior to taking a program like this, it's a nurturing fathers class. Prior to this, a lot of dads have this idea that they are just providers. So as long as they're making that payment or fitting that bill, or there's food on the table, there's almost a disregard completely for their own well-being until they're able to sit down and actually look at it, especially for 5 hours a week to actually have to sit down and look at yourself, I think is huge. I don't know. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think that sometimes there's a misconception of being a man is always being tough and always never having a problem, never crying, never being hurt. And so until I took a class like this, I didn't realize that being vulnerable, being emotional, being tired, taking care of myself was a part of it. And by feeling like that, I made a lot of decisions where I was like, well, it's how I end up in jail. It's okay. If I do this and I go to jail, I'm at least taking care of them without the thought of the consequences, without the thought of what it was doing to me, without the thought of what I was doing and how it was affecting my mental health and my stability. So almost like a sacrificial lamb thing. Like, as long as they're okay, it doesn't matter that I'm okay. And it's just a conception. We need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and that we're just as important when it comes in that area.
So when you present this information in your workshops, in your groups, are there a lot of other dads then that are connecting to this information and it really resonates with them for the first time?
So I wouldn't call it a support group. It's more of like a conversation. So it's cool to see the guys work off each other. So one's doing something successfully where the other one's struggling. So to see them mend and learn off of each other, even aside from the content and the workbook, we could probably spend a good 2.5 hours just talking about what they want to bring to the conversation for the day.
I start off every group or every class that we start by saying this is 30 men just having a conversation about becoming better men. So, I mean, that's the direction I try to go in it. Every single group, we have at least 3 or 4 people that say they came there for the gift cards. I mean, the only reason I came here was for gift cards. I'm so happy I came. It's not about the gift cards anymore, or it's not about the job training anymore. You see light bulbs turn on, and you have guys that at the beginning of the class sit there, and there's a very small percentage of our groups that aren't involved with it. We have guys that are getting together playing basketball on the weekends. We have guys that they'll come in to get some of their incentives together. These are fathers that didn't have a relationship before that have one now. So you see that turn. So it's just men bringing men together.
What are some realistic self-care practices that you encourage fathers to adopt?
I ask the fathers to really take a look at themselves and see what it is that makes them happy. I love to fish, and I spent a lot of years not doing that. And it wasn't until going through this program I realized like that's something I need to take time to do. I promote listening to music in private, meditation. Find something that when you get done doing it, you feel full. And for everybody, that's different. You know, I used to play video games. It was something I used to keep myself entertained. I don't do that anymore because There were a lot of other, that was just easy. So sometimes we need to get out of our square and that's not do what's easy, but take the time to go buy a fishing pole, buy a tackle box, get a license, and go do what I love rather than saying, hey, I got 15 minutes. I want some free time. I'm just going to play a game.
Self-care. Self-care is a big one. We could spend all day on self-care too, which we do in one of our chapters. But self-care, I think obviously it's going to depend on the person, but when we're going around the room asking how that individual's feeling, we also ask what their goal is for the day. And I think that really sets them up to start to think about, okay, what can I do today for me? What is my goal today? And typically, because they have that outlook of not necessarily taking care of themselves, it's the first time that they've actually considered that. So it's cool to see that transform or grow from the first week to the end of the 6.5 weeks, and they're asking us, well, who can help you? And as soon as we walk through the door, and they think it's funny, but it's cool because it actually stuck.
At the recovery house, I work at the recovery house part-time sometimes, and I will have guys, when I ask for something, when you ask what's your goal, who can help you with that, the class responds, we will help you. And when I ask someone at that recovery house, without a miss, there's a father in there that says, we will help you. It became almost like just a joke around the house, but it's something serious.
Absolutely. And our fatherhood program teaches the difference between power over and power to. Can you break that down for us and tell us what that means?
Yeah, so Tom looked at me immediately just because I enjoy this workshop that we do. But power over and power to, there's two concepts throughout the workbook, and you ask yourself two primary questions. So for power over, in a parenting role, you're asking yourself, well, how can I control? So power over, you can picture yourself standing over a little child. You're having this power over them, or you're trying to control them. Where we're trying to shift to a power to. So we're trying to give power to the child. We're trying to give that primary question of how can I help, rather than how can I control. Now there's probably some happy medium between the two, but if we can get them just to shift that idea from trying to control to trying to help, for example, just giving choices. So if I want my 5-year-old to brush his teeth and then put on his pajamas, I'm going to ask him which one he wants to do first, but I'm still getting one of the two things done that I want. And that's something we try to pass on to them with that power to technique. But it could be applied to so many other things too, especially with co-parenting. How can I give that power to my co-parent? How can we get on the same page instead of it being a power over where it's a win-lose situation? We can shift to a power to where it's a win-win, where it's me with you. It's not me versus you. So
I think it creates conversation rather than dictation. So, hey, go do this. And then more when you're trying to give them the power to them, you're having the conversation of why it's important to do it. And you're also giving them the opportunity to make a decision. If you got 2 kids that have to do their chores, just one thing that we did as parents is they had 10 chores to do. Instead of saying, hey, you do these ones, you do these ones, what we said was, here's 10 chores, you guys do them together. So we gave them the power to choose what they wanted to do and then be successful together. So it's it just creates conversation. It's conversation that's needed to be had.
How does shifting from power over to power to change the relationship between a father and his child?
One, like I said, it creates conversation, and also it makes the child feel like they have a say, and now you're more of a parent than an authority. And there's a respect that comes with that as well. They feel like they're a part of their process, not just. I
think it gives them some self-awareness. There's probably a better word for it, but maybe like a sense of autonomy. I don't know. But I think to see what it does just for our dad. So like not only are we working on that with the dad and the child, but the dad is doing that internally as well. So like if he's trying to have power over his own body, he's not listening to, his aches, his pains, and his needs. So it all goes back to self-care. But If he's having power over that, instead of trying to give power to those things and address them, and same with the child, I think interacting, if we're not addressing those things instead of trying to control them, might be a better outcome.
If you're creating power to rather than power over, you're going to be a better manager, a better employee, a better citizen. No matter what you do when you're engaging with someone, if you're willing to accept that, hey, I want to help you complete this task rather than I'm going to tell you to do it, or this is something that needs to get done, how can we do this together? You're creating a better, overall better person, someone who's going to be more adaptable to society in general. So we're teaching them good skills, but we're also helping them grow further in life. And as parents, we all know when we help our kids, it helps us. So I've grown as a person just as much as I've grown as a parent. I'm a better employee, a better coworker from learning power to rather than power over.
How does our relationships with our own fathers, or maybe the absence of that relationship, affect how we parent?
So I think, and this is one of the reasons why we address it so early in the workbook, is because we have those unseen bonds or these ties to our father. Even if he wasn't around, a lot of guys will say, well, I've had so many people tell me I'm just like my father. And he's never met the guy before. So it's like, even with your father not around, you still, one, either get something from that, so you're going to do the opposite of what your father did, or you're going to pick up some of those habits. There's this really good picture in the workbook of this guy that's unpacking a garage, and he's taking out boxes, and he's saying, some of this stuff's my dad's, and some of the stuff I want to keep, but some of this stuff I want to throw away. And then he's also adding some of his own stuff. So I think it can help and hurt us. Obviously, like those bad habits that we can pick up from our parents or lack thereof, or our father figures. I think there's positives and negatives to both having a dad present or not.
We do a meditation. It's one of my favorite part of the whole program is right at the beginning. We do a meditation that is where you're talking to your father. And then we do a meditation right immediately following that where you're talking to yourself as a child. And for me, my father was in and out of my life due to incarceration and addiction. My dad loved me with all his heart, but I was able to heal wounds now that I was never able to heal before. Like, he's gone now. So being able to heal wounds with him being gone, going through this process, one, I was able to understand that he didn't have a fatherhood program. And I was able to understand, look at his childhood and how he came up, and made me better understand that and heal that relationship and forgive him. I tell people I have a better relationship with my father now that he's gone than I ever did when he was here. I talk to him and I meditate, and it allowed me to heal a lot of wounds and process things. And then I started to look at my dad. You would say that he wasn't the best father, but there's a lot of good qualities in me that I got from him. And sometimes you learn from other people's mistakes. And there were things that he did that allowed me to be the father I am because he made the mistake and I didn't have to now. So it's just taking a look at him, and then when you take a look at yourself as a child and what that caused for you, you can look at the success and the failure. And if you really take time to reflect on it and you look at your own actions, we have a lot of tendencies of our own father. And I can realize that although my kids don't show me that it hurts them, I know what that did to me. So how is this affecting them? And it allowed me just to become a better father by looking at my dad and forgiving him.
It sounds like you're touching on a lot of what I wanted to talk about next, but what are some of the steps that fathers can take to start healing those wounds and avoid passing them on to their own children?
It's a lot of the same. You just take a look. If your father wasn't the father you felt like you needed, if you can look at it as he's giving me, really what he did was give me the knowledge of who I don't want to be, and look at his life, his childhood, how he came up. Did he ever have the opportunity to take one of these programs? Realize that we're blessed with the opportunity that we do have, and learn from his mistakes. I've learned more from my mistakes than I've ever learned from any of my successes. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mistakes. I wouldn't be doing what I did if I didn't make the mistakes I made. And that just allowed me to heal the wounds.
One of the things we do in class is touch on trauma, as you've talked about. And we go around the room and almost everybody in the room raises their hand when we ask if they believe that they've experienced some kind of trauma. So it doesn't matter what kind of trauma it is. It doesn't matter whether you think it's trauma, whether I think it's trauma. They raise their hand and say that they've experienced some kind of trauma. And when we go into talking about our fathers, we go back to that and we remind them, hey, you guys all put up your hands when we asked if you believed if everybody experienced trauma. So is it easier to accept what my dad did or lack thereof because of the trauma that he experienced? So we kind of try to go full circle with that, and we teach them undercover. I like to say.
In today's busy world, being present with your child is easier said than done. How can fathers eliminate distractions and be more intentional with their time?
I know that I used to think that I was a good father, and then I took this class, and I kind of had not a rude awakening, but I was like, wow, there's a lot of growth I can have. And I got to speak at the fatherhood graduation, and one of the things I said was, in my old life, I used to wait for Christmas Day for them to see what I got them. And that year, I couldn't wait for Christmas Day because I just got to be with them. And it is, one, I think you need to process what quality time is and what being present is. And it's not just taking up space. It's being engaged, being involved in the moment, and taking time to make sure you're not, again, you're talking, you're having conversations, and just realizing that time's a blessing. And every moment we get with them, if you miss one, you don't get it back. So all you can do is keep putting moments in the bank. You don't get to make withdrawals on that.
So to stay present, I think the biggest thing that we can do just today without taking a fatherhood program would be just to put our phones down. That's one of the hardest things to do, but to take advantage of the time that we have. So a lot of us have split time. The majority of the guys that are in our class are in a co-parent setting. And obviously we work towards trying to change that, and in a perfect world that would be the case. But unfortunately, a lot of us are, including myself, in a co-parenting relationship. That's why we focus on the teamwork so much. But, because we have split time, you want to make sure that you have that time planned out. I know if I get them on a weekend, I want to make sure I have that quality time set up, not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of the time. So we try to stress that too.
What does quality time really look like between a father and a child?
Yeah, you've got a good fishing story. I feel like would be a good plug for this.
Quality time, I think, is when there's bonding, when you're able to bond. You're right. I recently just got back from Florida, and my youngest son loves to fish. And he really got into fishing around the time that I was struggling. So I've got to take him fishing, but never really fishing. And we went down to Florida, and we went bass fishing. And my son caught a nice sized bass. It was one of the first fish he caught. And he caught it, and I kind of looked at him, and I thought he was going to be more surprised. And we got it in, we got it off, we let it go, and then he jumped in my arms. And that's a memory that he'll never forget. And when we first got down there, it was a 20-hour drive. You know what I mean? So we're tired, we're wore out. He wanted to go fishing, but it was just taking that time to take him fishing no matter how tired it was. And then that him doing that is so rewarding, that hug that you get. It's listening to your kids, what their needs and wants, not what you want. Like, my oldest son doesn't play sports, and I was an athlete in school. And it's like I wanted him to play sports, but he's really into cologne. He's really into shoes. So I take the time to learn about cologne and learn about the shoes and learn about the things that he's into so I can be a part of those conversations and get involved in it. And now I've created a financial crisis and a love for cologne at the same time. It's one of those things, though, creating quality time. You have to make sure you're involved, and you have to make sure that we find their interests, the type of music they listen to. It's not always my type of music, but I take time to learn what it is they're listening to and what intrigues them so I can be a part of it. It's not just my youngest son does play football, so that's an easy conversation for me to have. But also getting them involved in like what I'm excited in, and then so they can be a part of that too. My oldest son didn't like to fish, and by the last day we were in Florida, he said, "Dad, I might like to do this." So quality time is developing them while you develop yourself.
That's spot on. I have nothing else to add.
How How does recognizing the child within us help us better understand our parenting style?
Yeah, so back to trauma, and I don't mean to harp on this, but we talk about ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences, which includes all types of trauma, but the majority, the percentage, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's pretty high. I think, just like when everybody put their hands up for that trauma, they all said they experienced it, and we do this visualization where they picture themselves as a child, and the majority of them go back to an age of trauma. And if they don't address that in that class, it's just going to keep creeping up. So I think it makes it easier to do when we're in a group of guys and everybody's like, okay, well, the guy next to me is trying it. I'll try it. But then to also hear all the facts about, concussions or, sexual trauma or whatever kind of trauma it may be, a lot of times men aren't armed with that knowledge of, okay, it's happening to other men. So that in itself, just to have it in a room and be a conversation, not only as children, but as adults, the trauma that they've experienced, I think is huge to address before even talking about parenting.
I can see how the dynamic of the group setting can be really powerful to break down those feelings of isolation and help people connect and validate what they've experienced.
Yeah. I've tried to implement trust falls, but the guys just they're not into it. So maybe in the next class.
Can you share an example of how a father's unresolved childhood experiences might show up in his parenting?
I'm the poster child for this. I'm
sorry, just in sayings alone, like you ever say something, you're like, oh my gosh, that was my dad.
I mean, my father was in and out of my life, but a lot of what he did was when he would come around was provide financial support. So for me and a lot of the things I did, I was there financially. And I just thought that was okay. Like I said, I came into this program thinking my kids were taken care of, but really they weren't. Some of the things that were most important, because I didn't get them, even though I knew I needed them, I didn't provide them. So it was just being able to realize that, like, my dad was known for being not someone that you messed with. He was known for being tough. He was known for being involved. So I wanted that reputation too, because that, to me, that was being a man. That's what being a father was, because that was my father, even though I knew it was wrong. And it wasn't until taking this class and really seeing what a father was, I realized was a lot of his traits, even though my dad was only around for a handful of years of my life, I still picked up a lot of his traits and the perception of what a man and a father is from him. I had a mother who raised me completely different, but that was my father. And that's what I seen as a man. And that's what I seen as a role model. But as I got older, I was able to break down why he was like that. And then I was able to really break down and find times when that really wasn't either who he wanted to be either. It's just what he knew.
For fathers working to repair strained relationships with their children, what advice would you share?
I know for myself, developing a good relationship with the mother is very helpful in that. My kid's mother and I, we're not together. We've been separated for several years, but we live together right now. She has a 3-year-old she needed some help with. So we co-parent. The situation worked out at the time where it was beneficial for us to just stay together because of what we were doing and the amount of time I was spending there. And then by doing that and fixing that relationship, now you have support from the other parent. Now I'm blessed with my co-parent's amazing. She, when I was going through what I was going through, hey, your dad's just trying to make himself better. He's got to take this time to step away. So I did have that. Some people don't have that. But in doing that and having her support, it was easier for me to rebuild that relationship. But I'm very open with my kids about my drug use, about my criminal activity, because one, I just don't want to lie to them, and two, I want them to learn from my mistakes. But I think when you're honest, you're able to. There's no secrets. There's no conversation off the table. My kids will joke with me about some of my criminal activity, and I had someone once say, "Isn't that offensive to you?" I'm like, I would rather them feel comfortable enough to joke with me about it than it be an unspoken conversation. So I try to make sure I have those conversations this is why I left. I made these decisions, and not only did it cost me my freedom, but it cost me my relationship and my time with you. So I want them to learn from my mistakes. And I'm really an open book, maybe too open sometimes, but my children have made a lot of the right decisions because of that. And I feel like that's how I kind of close that gap.
Ooh, so that's a good one that pops up a lot. So there is another curriculum that uses this concept, another fatherhood curriculum that uses this concept of do your part. So no matter what it is, if it's something as simple as just trying to place a phone call or make that phone call, because often that can be like one of the biggest barriers is just making that call, because we can turn something that small into probably the biggest mountain ever, especially when it comes to our kids. Like what are they gonna, as you thought, being honest, what are they gonna think? What are they gonna say? I think even though he's not, sometimes I think like my kid's my biggest critic, because they do watch literally everything that you do, but to do your part. So if I don't have access to my child, but I do have a phone number and I legally can call them, I want to say that, but if I can call them, that's doing my part. If it's my Saturday, I'm going to pick them up. That's doing my part. If I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, that's doing my part. Being there when I said I'm going to be there. So I think there's little things that we can do. If it's not a phone call, it could be a letter. It could be, so many different things. But oftentimes our graduations are a great platform for them to make that connection, because it's neutral ground. They can see that the father, that we've accomplished something, they've accomplished something. They get a certificate at the end of graduation. So oftentimes that could be one of the first certificates they've ever gotten. So to have your child there, and on top of that, to have the mother of your child there is huge.
Both of you are living examples that change is possible. What are some of the signs that progress is being made, even if the progress feels slow or discouraging?
I had a guy in my class that came in, and when he first came in, he still had a lot of his old life in him. And you could tell through the conversations we had. But he was asking questions. And when people are asking questions, that means they're questioning things. So when you start to notice people asking the right questions, and by the end of our group, he was emotional in the group. He had a strained relationship. He's now repaired that relationship completely, is getting custody. He's now an employee. He's come a long way. But you see the light bulb turn on. And a lot of it is just by their involvement. Like, I know for me, I realized that I wanted to change when I was incarcerated, but I didn't know how to do it. And then I came home, and I'd been sober for a while, and I wasn't involved with the lifestyle I was involved in, and I thought that was enough. But then what happened was I started questioning myself. I started questioning my motives behind it and asking the right questions to the right people. And that's when you start to see the real change. When you get that, when we're in the group and I get someone that makes that eye contact, and I'm like, okay, he's really listening. He's asking questions. Why do you do this? How can I help? My mom had a friend who he was 40 years sober. And he said, when it comes to recovery, he would say that, you're really recovered when you start wanting to give back. And I noticed that in fatherhood too. You'll see the men I see start to make the turn, the ones that say, what can I do to help my kids? Not, hey, my kids don't want to see me pour me more. What can I do to become a better father? It's a change in conversation, or how do I repair this relationship, or how do I help my child? They'll ask me, I'm blessed with the relationship I have with my kids and my kid's mother. But they'll say, like, how did you do this? Can I get involved in this? I've had my kids at the graduations. I see them interacting with my kids. And when you see that involvement and you see those questions, you start to see that turn. And then that's when we can really dive in. And, some guys need more help than others. So it's pulling them aside and having a separate conversation with them. Or it's the extra couple text messages a month. But you can see it. You see the lights come back on.
So we're an incentive-based program. So initially we offer Walmart gift cards when you sign up with us, when you do our surveys. The government basically compensates us for getting answers to questions from fathers that they typically wouldn't get had there not been a program like this. So Tom, earlier in the conversation, had mentioned gift cards. Some will say, well, I was initially just here for the gift cards. So that's what he was referencing. But
So the incentives are working.
exactly. So if that's what gets them through the door, that's great. But oftentimes you see them transition to not caring about that gift card anymore or forgetting about it. And I think that's one of the biggest changes I can see right away. But to see them start to buy into the curriculum, and I know I keep harping on the curriculum, but it's everything. It's different in everybody, but to like Thomas said, to see them want to start to give back, like, hey, can I come to class after this is over, or hey, can I say something at graduation, or they'll write something out on their own and want to speak at graduation, and like before that was the guy that you had to throw $50 at just to do a survey, and now he's asking to speak at a graduation, so it's cool.
We had a guy in one of our classes that he had found out his kid wasn't his, and he was getting ready to go for a custody hearing, and he was really upset. And when we went out on our break, you seen 4 of our other fathers around him talking to him, and he was a younger guy. He was in his 20s, and the guys were out there. They were all talking to him, and that bonding experience that made that whole cohort change through that one bonding experience. But once they start to invest, you really start to see a change. That class invested in him, so they invested in themselves. It's those small things that happen where you see people like, all right, this is really doing something. I can be a part of something. And when people start to really invest in not just themselves, but the group, when they're saying, hey, I went through that, or hey, let me give you some advice, or this is something I went through, hey, let's talk. That's when you really see that change start to take effect.
Yeah, so we for that visualization, we asked the guys to close their eyes, and then the nice thing is Thomas and I can keep our eyes open, so we can see who's actually participating and who's not, or you can see some of the guys that are like opening one eye to see if the guy next to him is actually doing it. But once you get one guy to bite in that group, I feel like they all just start to get on board. There's this fun activity that we do really early on in the class where we have them write down a negative thought that they have about themselves. And then they get to crumble it up in a ball and just chuck it anywhere in the room. So then the group gets up and they all get to pick up a random piece of paper and they turn it into something positive. So we kind of wedge the door there a little bit to have them say, okay, well, maybe as a group we're on the same page and we're all feeling this way, so it's okay to next chapter to talk about our feelings or whatever the next chapter may be. But
what's one piece of advice you'd give to a father who wants to be more engaged but doesn't know where to start?
Find a fatherhood program, whether you're recently released from incarceration, whether you're in recovery from drugs and alcohol. I know for a fact this program helps those individuals. I can't tell you that it'll reconnect you to your kids. I can't tell you that you'll have a better relationship with the mother of your child, but you will improve in some way, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically. There's no way you can walk out of it without some kind of positive. Another great tool is 211. So if you're fresh out of wherever and you don't know who to call, 211's always a great go-to.
I think that when you are looking at your relationship with your children, you have to take a look at why you're not engaged. And then work on yourself before you try to re-engage. Make sure that when you show up, you can show up completely. The last thing you want to do is start to mend a relationship and end up regurgitating what got you there. And again, a fatherhood program like this will really help you break down your faults and help you build on your strengths as well. If we do get our grant back, if the government's willing to support us so we can continue this journey, find us. We can help you.
How can community members support the work of the fatherhood program and get involved?
I feel like our community is they're doing an admirable job of that. I mean, this is National Fatherhood Month. Lucas County Commission has recognized it as National Fatherhood Month. We have walks. We're having an event this month, but I think that we just need to make sure that we're recognized fathers that are making the effort. If there are mistakes can be made, anybody can make mistakes, and some of those mistakes are more costly. So I think as a community, if we can support not just fathers, anyone that's going through the struggle, have some compassion, if we can love each other and really build each other up, there's going to be more success. A lot of times sometimes it feels like society wants to put people down, but I don't really feel like that's the general view. I think that's a view of a small population, but I think overall as a population, we really want to build each other up. And as a community, if we can start supporting each other, supporting programs like this, like we're a fatherhood program that's helping people, like let's support the program and let's continue to build and grow on what we already have going.
Yeah, I think awareness is probably where to start. To be honest with you, had I not been at Zepf, I would not know how I would have found a fatherhood program. So in the position that I'm in, I try to change that. And I think we've been successful at it. What I see is the population that we're creating, or the group of men that are coming out of our cohorts, are, now that they've recognized that this is an issue, they're starting to fight for their own cause. One, it's giving them their own voice, but I think once we have them in that group and having that conversation, that voice gets a little bit louder. But yeah, I think it's fathers helping fathers, and then we serve every single walk of life. So not just with our fatherhood program, but all of our Zepf programs. So it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like. We're going to help you, especially with the fatherhood program. If you identify as a father, you're a father figure, so your girlfriend has kids, whatever the situation may be, we're here to help.
We also have a lot of agencies in the community that we've developed relationships with that send recommendations our way. And I think that's a big part too, is, Anita from Lucas County Child Support, Drug Court reaches out to us. We've got Neighbor Works, these agencies coming together and realizing that we can help these men. And if other agencies are recognizing that and we've built these relationships, there's more places in the community that probably could. And if they hear this, reach out, because the more opportunities that we can give these men, the more successful we can be, and the more successful we can be as a society and a community, like help the city of Toledo build itself back up again.
Absolutely. And this is definitely an impact that will further reach new generations, the work that you guys are doing to reshape the lives of fathers.
I told one of our guys that, I said, if you really want change, you can create small changes in our generation. But if you really want to create change, it's generational change. So it is looking at our children, and not just our children, but how are they going to be as parents? Because their children are going to be the generation that creates the change. And we can help them be better, but they're already here. It is, how do we develop them to create their generation of children to be successful? That's where the change will be. It'll be in 20 years and 30 years. Small changes now create greater changes later.
One of the goals for our program is workforce development. So after the class is done, after the 6.5 weeks, we work with the dads on a case management basis. So we work with them for up to a year on anything they see as a barrier to being a more present father. And a lot of times their focus is financial. So we help them try to get jobs, and we do that by not just working with our success coaches, but we help with resume development, we help with interview skills, we help with interview close, we help them get to interviews. We help with the job search, really anything they see in the way of employment, we try to remove.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming in today and being on this episode of JJ's Clinical Connection.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
That's a wrap on today's episode. This June, remember that fatherhood isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being honest, and doing the work to grow alongside your family. If today's episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who could use this support, reach out to our team and learn more about available resources. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to download and share this episode. For the latest clinical connections, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. For more information about Zepf Center's Fatherhood Connections Program and other resources mentioned in this episode, check out our show notes. For more information on Zepf Center, visit us at zeffcenter.org or find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. This is Dr. Jennifer Jansen, signing off until next time.